Is the 50 years at KOTA, and it's basically one question. Why?
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 It was a job, and it was a job I enjoyed. It was a job that I every day had a new challenge, and every day I could try to complete that job and that challenge, and the next day I look forward to a new one.
Okay, but I've been there a while. I know what the job is. You got to, Liv, he comes home sometimes, and I bet he's told you a lot of times, I've had it. I'm not staying there any longer, hasn't he?
No. I've always said, the one person I know that has never, ever said when he got up in the morning, I don't want to go to work today. He's always enjoyed his job and always went to work. Loved every bit of it.
But I find that surprising because I would think that after a while...
Well, there's times, that he gets a little frustrated, but he always enjoyed going to work, and he liked the challenge.
Okay. When you talk about the challenge, tell me what you think the biggest challenge, not only that you've had in the past, what's going to be your biggest challenge in the next 50 years at KOTA?
Well, I won't have that 50-year challenge, another 50-year challenge. But the biggest challenge that you're going to have in the future is the keeping up with the technologies and the fragmentation of audiences to keep that under control. But as I think people see during times of emergency, time of crisis, or things like that, broadcasting is to many where some of the social media is one-on-one. And the biggest challenge that I had at KOTA up to this point was at the time when the KDUH tower fell, and we had 1 year to get that whole system rebuilt, and that was a challenge. But we made it, and that was the biggest challenge.
Yeah, the technology today, do you find it easier to do things today with this new technology, or was it easier back in the old days when it was fly by the seat of your pants?
Well, it was easier in the old days because there was really you had with your own mind's creativity and how you presented the television picture to the people. Today you have all of the new technologies that you have to know about. You have to understand what makes the computer work, what makes the server work, and those type of things. So it's more very technical things that may be easier to handle, but still the knowledge that you have to make that work for the.
Does that make things a little bit easier to stay on the fact that you have all these changes?
Well,
or would it have been easier if it was just same old stuff every day?
No. It might be easier, but the same old stuff would not be easier for you because that's when you do get tired of it. It's the daily changes that makes it interesting and challenging. But it's easier for us to have reputation in things that we do. You are used to with commercials, you'd have to take it all. You couldn't take a layer off, whether it was a graphic or an audio track or something like that. You had to completely redo the whole commercial or the whole program. Today, it's easier because you can break it apart in more segments. Yeah.
As long as you understand that new technology.
That's the point.
When you look at the future of TV, the operation side, which is what you've been doing for 49 of those 50 years?
Well, not quite. Let's see. About 35 of the 50 years, yes.
Yeah. Why not the news side?
Well, that I guess that's a good question. When I got into the business, Rapid City was in its infancy in television, and you could just about pick any area you wanted to and work there. I guess I'd never had the interest. I was more interested in the control room work, the studio work, and those things in the early days, which, as you learned those type of things, then went into operations. But I guess I just never when I went to work at KOTA, they had a very full-rounded news department, and there really was no opening in the studio in that area. There was the opening, so that's where I landed.
I get the funny feeling that people don't ask you that question
No,
much.
they don't.
Why
No.
not? I mean, everybody does that. Didn't you ever get that? Didn't anyone ever ask you how come Monty's not on TV all the time?
No, nobody's ever asked that.
Or probably you would have said, well, you don't want him on TV, do you?
Yeah, that could be. I don't know. He's
You know.
always likes the technology stuff.
Now, do you worry about the day that he actually hangs it up and he comes home forever?
Well, he's slowed down and he's only working like 3 days a week now. I told him, I do breakfast and supper, but I didn't do dinner, so he's going to have to find somebody to go to lunch with.
All right, one last question to let you go. I tell a lot of the young TV reporters, I feel sorry for them starting out in the business today because a lot of the changes and the frustrations. Do you find the same thing in the operation side, the production side?
Oh, sure. And even in the engineering department, right now we are leaving the analog area. There still is some fragments of analog left behind, and we're getting into digital. And so you got to have the engineers that understand both what's left of the analog and getting into the digital. The young people may be very sharp on the digital side, but they don't know the analog side, and vice versa. If you have a seasoned engineer, he may know the analog very well and has no interest in getting into the digital because he's about ready to hang it up. So.
I lied. I have one more question. I always lie.
I always have one more question.
Do you take your crystal ball out and tell me when you think it will be that the day that we look at our TV shows and turn on our news is the day that we all do it on the computer?
Well, that's not that far away. It really isn't. It's going to depend upon how much the people want to look at their news or their television programming in a small screen area, or do they only have certain things they want to see on that big, large screen that they have in their multimedia room? And that's going to be the difference. And the people are going to have, I think you're going to have a lot of people saying, I'll get my news in snippets, and what we call news may not be what they call news. It might be more of the Hollywood entertainer type thing, or it might be what's the latest thing on the internet that went viral, and they think that's news as opposed to what we remember the Walter Cronkite news is.
What's trending?
That's what's trending.
The phrase now.
Yeah.
But it's coming to the point where people are going to pick and choose. It's going to be an alphabet soup. They're just going to weed through it and pick what
they want.
Subjects they want.
Yeah, and leave it.
Yeah. Are you ready for that?
No, because we got too many years of that other experiences that everybody gathered around the TV and got their news, and then they got their entertainment, and then they went to bed.
Yeah, it's like
kids got up on Saturday morning and watched cartoons, and
you still read that newspaper in the morning too, handheld newspaper, because you just can't give it up.
Yeah, that's right.
One thing I should have asked you, Monty, what is your least favorite moment at KOTA?
My least favorite?
Yeah. And you gotta have one.
Oh, yeah. Probably got to sort through and find the one without a lot of chaff on it. Least favorite.
That many? You can't figure out what to pick from?
Well, the thing that comes to my mind, probably the least favorite, is the morning after the flood, when we heard about the death of the Bill Magner family, the man who was in our television sales department, and George Carter, who was a fireman for the city, and his wife also worked at KOTA. And that was probably my least favorite, hearing that news, knowing that there was a lot of families had been getting those kind of notices that morning. But since that happened so close to the KOTA family.
Yeah. But that's the kind of thing that a tragedy a lot of people get. I'm thinking about more along that's like job related versus personal experience. That's a personal experience.
Probably then the least favorite on the job is when I got the telephone call from the sheriff in Hemingford, Nebraska, saying your 2,000-foot tower is on the ground and there's 2 to 3 dead.
Yeah.
to hear that tragedy and what that meant was going to mean to the station, that was my least favorite moment. It really was. I mean, it was brief, but yet you had to. I had to walk down the second floor and tell Bill, sorry, I just got this call.
Do you have many of those conversations where you didn't want to tell your boss something?
Oh yeah, oh sure. There's, and whether it was somebody that was disciplinary type of things for employees, or if it was a piece of equipment or that had failed and he's going to have to replace it, get notice that the television program he was wanting to purchase get the rights to put on the air went to another station. All those kind of things during the 50 years they all happened.
And those you will not miss.
No.
But the biggest thing probably got to be the people.
Oh, sure. You think of the years and years that I had there with people that you watched their families grow up, and they retired and moved on, yeah.
God, how many grandkids did you have working for you whose grandparents worked for you?
Hell, geez, I never sat down and figured out how many, but there was. Or people like Dr. Paul Wright, was a young man that worked in the control room and in the studio for me. And here today, he's a highly respected eye physician. The Charlie Foldenauers, who went to School of Mines and was a very good football player, an all-conference football player, and went on to be coal miners in West Virginia, or the Wally Getzmeyers that had went out of geological engineering into the North Sea and drilled oil in the North Sea, and those guys to come back and visit with you. It's always a lot of fun.